If you will not be able to come in on camera or microphone, but you'll be able to be in the chat. If you have any issues with being recorded, please log off now. But thank you for joining us today. Let's get started. Thank you for joining us for the November DUG4GOV Meetup. We're very excited to have everyone here today. We have a full house. Can you say you have a full house virtually? I think so. I think you can. Well, thank you again for joining us today. This meetup is brought to you by the state and local government Microsoft team and also DUG Dynamics User Group. So welcome. Welcome. Just a few notes about DUG. DUG Dynamics User Group. We are a Microsoft Dynamics 365 community with a free membership. Please come out and join us. You've joined the Meetup group, so come out and visit the whole community if you haven't had an opportunity. We are known for our DynamicsCon virtual and our DynamicsCon live events and our superhero themes. DUG has been around since we started in 1995, and we are a community of 35,000 strong with lots of free opportunities for you with membership, education, and connecting with the community on a global level. Few things about us. We've got several programs that we offer that are free for you to participate in. We also have sponsorship opportunities. I'll drop a link to our website in the chat so you can peruse and check out those offerings at your leisure. Also, just a couple notes. We do have our upcoming DynamicsCon virtual happening March 15th of 2023, and accepting session submissions. So if you feel like you are ready to present to a global audience, please submit your session out there. All sessions for this conference are voted on by the community. So feel free to go out there and check out that information, and also plan to attend to get that information for yourself. Also, we have the DynamicsCon Live event happening in May. Got my months mixed up. In May, happening in Scottsdale, Arizona. This is our third in-person event. So we're very excited about it. We have over 112 education sessions, 3 days worth of content, and a discount code for our Meetup Cool Kids, because this is where all the cool kids hang out. And thank you so much for being here, for supporting DUG4GOV Meetup, and we look forward to seeing you at another event soon. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt for him to talk about his information.
All right. Hey, everybody. Matt Beaumont. I lead our Microsoft customer success team for state and local governments. I am actually just filling in for Mary Bremer, who is our sponsor, but we're a small team, state and local government focused, that are really just trying to bring the community together around Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, and just to build a sharing community amongst all the people out there that have, especially state and local governments nationally, that have either found success on the platform or are looking to do more with it. So this is very much a community organization, and we're always actively looking for our customers that want to present on this. So we have slots open in the next few months. But today we have an awesome presenter that I'm super excited about. Amanda Kastl, Felicia Pickett from Fairfax County. They're going to talk about their journey through their Power Platform. And just a quick note before we turn it over. We are off on December, so there will be no session on December. We're actively recruiting for January. We have a couple of people lined up for February and March, but please, I mean, honestly, this is a community, and we want you guys to really feel like you're part of this, and you're giving back to the state and local government customers. So appreciate the time, and Amanda, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you for having me today. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This does go till about 1 o'clock. I'm sure many of you are brown bagging this, maybe some leftover pumpkin pie from Thanksgiving. Excited that you're here today. Want to cover a couple disclaimers. Number one, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice anyway. I'm a policy person. This is not an ad. This is not for marketing. There is no specific bottle of wine or t-shirt or anything else that we're getting out of this. We're really here as public servants to share with you some success that we had using this Microsoft tool to improve our FOIA response process. And then just lastly, I'll also say that while Microsoft is an amazing vendor and we're very fortunate to have Dynamics improve our process, there are many, many other vendors out there that are equally amazing. So want to make sure that we mention that as well. All right, so let's dive right in. My name's Amanda Kastl. I'm the Countywide FOIA officer in Fairfax County. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, there's my handles. Would love to connect with any of you, whether it's in government or the private sector. I think collaboration in FOIA or merging the gap between legal and IT is critical, and that collaboration makes that even stronger and strengthening those gaps. I live, work, and play in Fairfax County, lifelong resident, and I've been a technology advocate my entire career. I've worked in the legal industry, whether it's e-discovery, information governance, or record compliance. That's kind of my sweet spot. I also have Felicia Pickett. I like to call her Santa Claus. She helps us in our FOIA process and gives us the tools and tricks to make it easier. So hi there to Felicia. She's our Enterprise Client Technology Branch Manager in the Fairfax County Department of Information Technology. She has over 30 years working in Fairfax County government. She has not only improved our FOIA response process, but a myriad of other processes and programs in Fairfax County that she'll share a little bit more about later today. And then just lastly, she is a Power Platform and Dynamics expert as well. So just to kind of learn a little bit more about folks here, I know everyone now is well versed on how to use reactions in Teams. Who here is in government? Do we have a lot of government folks here? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. Okay. Yep, a lot of government. Okay. No surprise there. Awesome. How about the private sector? Do we have anyone from the private sector here other than Microsoft folks? Maybe a couple. Okay. Anyone from anywhere else outside of government or private? Did we miss anyone there? Okay. And then also just kind of curious from the backgrounds that you all have, is anyone coming from a legal or compliance background? Maybe you're an attorney or a paralegal, or you manage records and information compliance. Just give me a thumbs up if you're more on the legal side of things. Okay, so a few. How about a more on the IT side, whether you're a programmer, whether you like Felicia or a Power Platform and Dynamics expert? Okay, good to know. That's good to know. Anyone here have a PMP? Okay, so I might ask you to chime in when we get to one of the slides, which talks about the ProSci ADCAR model, which we definitely used in implementing this this new tool. But thanks for letting us get a little bit of a glimpse into who we're presenting to today. This is what we're going to cover. So a little bit about Fairfax County. I know we probably have folks from all over Virginia and beyond. So we're going to cover a little bit about Fairfax and then also FOIA requests in Fairfax County. Maybe one other thumbs up for me if you have ever heard of FOIA. Okay. And what about if you haven't heard of FOIA? Give me a thumbs up. If you're a government person, you're probably going, oh gosh, FOIA. Let's hope you're not, but you might be. We understand. And how about Power Platform or Dynamics? Are a lot of you using Power Platform and Dynamics? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Okay, cool. So maybe you're here to just kind of learn about one of the many ways that your government or your private organization might want to use it. So we're going to talk a little bit about FOIA requests, kind of expand some horizons there on what those look like in Fairfax County. And then we're also, the reason why you're probably really here, we're going to talk about the VFOIA tracker. The VFOIA tracker is something, it's a term, it's a phrase that we coined when we were first creating the application. It's an enterprise-wide FOIA tracking tool in Fairfax County. We use it to track all 16,000 FOIA requests, and that's among over 40 county agencies. So
Amanda,
we're, yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
Matt.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I
No,
didn't
that's
want you
okay.
to get
What's
too
up?
far down. Is everyone having problems with the deck, the presentation? Not on camera. Am I the only one?
Everything looks good for me.
It does. Okay.
Yep.
And I forgot when
She,
no one else can speak, so.
yep, she's, but
You can
from
do
my
thumbs up or-
perspective, she's clicking along good. She's staying up to date with everything. It's loading appropriately.
Okay.
Looks good.
Someone said it's
Okay.
still on the
So
first
For
let's
some
slide.
reason, it's not, it's, yeah, we were just chatting and just kept scrolling, but okay, good enough.
So somebody did say it's still on the first slide, so maybe, you know what, let's just reload it. Why not? We can just click through it real quick. Let me just try to reload that to make sure we're on track. How about that? Is that any better? It should be on the overview slide. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Matt. It's always good to double check those kind of things. Okay, so the VFOIA tracker, that's what we call our internal FOIA tracking mechanism. We're going to cover that. So how did we make that happen in Fairfax County? It was a process. It wasn't easy, but we did it. It took a lot of teamwork, and we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit. And then also, what does our new and improved process look like? So the tracker was implemented 5 years ago. What was it then when it was first implemented? How did we get to where we are now, which is 5 years later, which is what we're going to talk about towards the end of my part of the presentation. And then I'll kick it over to Santa Claus, aka Felicia Pickett, in our Department of Information Technology, who helped us build this awesome tool. And then she's going to share a little bit more about that process and from the IT perspective, how that was so successful for her. And then we'll wrap it up after that. And this goes till about 1 o'clock. So we're going to be going pretty quick through these, the first half of the presentation. Okay, so Fairfax County, some of you might have visited or you might reside here. It's in Northern Virginia. We have about 1.2 million residents. It's 406 square miles. We have over 13,000 county employees. We have over 40 county agencies. And as far as our FOIA volume, we started tracking FOIAs in fiscal year 19, and there was about 9,000 FOIAs. And now we have grown to over 16,000. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what FOIAs look like for us in Fairfax County as well. One of the really critical things for us that made our FOIA process improve and made it work was we established a program to support the FOIA process. So there were dedicated staff, there are now dedicated staff that support improving FOIA in the county. So from compliance, efficiency, and transparency, we made it a priority to improve that process in the county. And here's just a couple things about our program. So it looks like a lot of you know what VFOIA is, but in case you don't, what it's all about is open government and transparency. That and balancing privacy and security. So this is the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, the second paragraph. Some of you might comply with a local Sunshine Act or Public Records Act, or maybe you're from the federal government and you comply with the federal FOIA. All of them are very similar. They just have different timelines and different procedural requirements. But in Fairfax County, we are required to comply with VFOIA, which is the name of the presentation. Or you probably saw VFOIA and thought, what is that? That's the law we comply with. Okay, so in Fairfax County, we have a myriad of folks who submit FOIA requests. And it's not just media, it's not just attorneys. Here's a couple of examples. You might be looking at some of these and chuckling, but yes, we do get a lot of requests from nosy neighbors. We get a lot of requests from parents, particularly during COVID, wanting to know more information about what the county is doing in responding to the pandemic. Here's just a couple of other examples of who submits FOIA requests to Fairfax County. And what do they submit FOIA requests for? So this is always a really interesting slide to kind of expand your horizons on what are members of the public really interested in receiving from government. Most of you who are in government probably have an awesome website with all kinds of information on your contracts or your budget or your land development. Sometimes the public wants a little more, and we can't always anticipate what they want, or maybe they want something so specific that takes a little digging. And so here's a couple of examples of what public data is requested in Fairfax County. And there is an example there, golf tee time, for any of you out there who golf at a very specific time and you're golfing at a county course and you want to know who was it that took my tee time. We've gotten that, folks. Somebody has FOIA'd a golf tee time, and that was releasable. There's a bunch of other information there, whether it's contract information, vendors are looking to see what they should bid on a contract. And the best way to do that is see, well, what did the last guys charge for it? Salary information of employees, all kinds of electronically stored information as well, ESI, phone data, emails, metadata related to emails, internet browsing history. We receive a wide variety of public records requests, and we've kind of changed the public records to be more public data, because really, as far as electronic records go, it's the data that's in these records that folks are interested in. So just want to kind of mention that too. And so here's some examples of the public data that's requested. Okay, so that's a little bit about Fairfax County and our FOIAs, what FOIAs we get and what do people see. Are coming in all directions from different agencies, submitted via email, submitted via phone. Some people even do fax. I know you IT people, there's a lot of IT people who are like, what is fax? I know, I'm a millennial, I get it. I said the same thing, but folks submit FOIAs via fax as well, and we don't discriminate. They can submit it anyway. We needed to figure out, how can we have a glimpse of the impact of FOIA countywide? What is the time that we're devoting to FOIA? What are the compliance concerns that we might have? Are we submitting requests on time? How can we improve this process? A lot of the FOIAs were coming in and it was like a bouncing ball. It was going to this agency. No, we don't have that. Let's send them over here. More bouncing ball. Let's send them over here. So we went to IT along with our lawyers and said, how can we improve this process? Please, please help us standardize in a decentralized way the tracking of FOIA requests in the county. How can we do that? So the one way that we did that was come together and really take the time to figure out, what is our goal here? And for the IT folks in Fairfax County, big supporters of innovation and change to be able to deliver better services to the public. For the FOIA staff and legal, making sure that we're considering risk, considering compliance. Nobody wants a lawsuit. So we came together and came up with this shared goal, which is utilizing technology to improve the way that we do business in Fairfax County while promoting transparency, enhancing our FOIA response process, and ensuring compliance. So that was a really critical thing that we did in the beginning. We had to commit to that as a team, and we did it. We realized that with all of these issues, we had to address them in a way that the best that we could. We weren't going to solve all of the problems of the FOIA response process, but IT helped us solve many of them. And one of the ways that we did this at kind of a higher level was considering the ProSci ADCAR model, which goes from awareness. So what is the need for the change? Do we need this change? Is there a business case? Is there risk? Which in both cases for us, there was that in FOIA. There was a desire. We needed that desire to participate and support the change. We also wanted to understand, how are we going to change? How can we change what is currently in place? And what are the best ways to do that? We also wanted to make sure that we had the skills and knowledge and abilities available to us in order to implement that change. And then last but not least, the reinforcement. Our tracker has been in place for over 5 years. Every year, we've been able to produce an annual report. Every year, we've been able to assess what FOIA looks like and the impact of FOIA on the county. And that reinforcement, whether it's annual surveys or taking an environmental assessment of how folks whether it's continuing to improve their process, what tweaks we might be able to do in the tracker to enhance that process, making sure that we're doing that along the way. And I saw a couple people out there that were PMPs. I'm not a PMP, but I did get a couple of books from our library on the first floor in the government center, and I had those next to us as we were going through this process. And I can tell you what, one day I will get a PMP because this is so critical in this IT process in order to shape that with success. Some of these initial challenges, the FOIA request volume and impact, as I said, it was unknown. We had no idea how many staff were devoted to FOIA. We didn't even have an idea of how many FOIAs were submitted to the county. Was it 5,000? Was it 10,000? We didn't know. We had to also take a closer look. Well, what is a FOIA request for us? What if somebody just asks a question? Hey, I'm curious whether this property has any violations against it from a land development standpoint. Is that a FOIA request? We really had to drill down and kind of do some investigating onto what those numbers were in this process. And I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But we knew the process was inefficient. We knew that we had a lot of duplication. We knew that multiple agencies were probably responding to the same request, probably a requester that owes for another request as well. We weren't able to collect and verify whether someone was overdue on another fee. And there was no workflows. And I know I'm talking to IT people. The workflows was really, really critical. And I think really one of the best ways that the tracker enabled us to improve the process, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And Felicia will cover that too. And then last but not least, there was no centralized oversight of compliance. If we needed to pitch this to the lawyers who had some concerns about keeping this all in one place and some of the sensitivity of that information and the privacy, we needed to make them be okay with it. And we wanted to make sure that they understood with this tracker, we would be able to achieve compliance even better. So after we learned we needed this change to happen, and after we documented that and started to see what it was that we needed to do and could this actually work, we needed some support. So we went to our elected officials and sought support, and we got it. Elected officials, they love transparency. It's really important for them in their positions. And that was something that we pitched, and we definitely had their support, and we very much appreciated that. We also got county management's support as far as efficiency. We were wasting a lot of time with duplicative processes, and we provided some pretty good data to show that with this tracker and with this process improvement, we'd save a lot of taxpayer money, and we'd also be able to eliminate some staffing positions as a result of that inefficiency and the change in using this tool. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the county legal compliance. They loved it. They loved the idea of being able to determine whether we were compliant on a FOIA request and our response. One of the things that Felicia suggested to me early on, and she does have a PMP, she suggested we do that environmental assessment. And I said, oh, but these folks, they're not going to want to fill out a survey. They don't have time. They're really busy. You know, I'm a little nervous about it. I've never done this before with with 40 plus agencies with different FOIA points of contact. So I'm a little nervous, Felicia. Should we really do this? She said, we've got to do it. There's no other way that we're going to really be able to see what it looks like. And so we did it. We did a survey. It was a 1-page PDF. It might have been 2 pages, or some of them might have typed and it got to 2 pages, but we asked them to complete a PDF of what is your current process? What do you think your current volume is? How many staff do you have devoted to FOIA? Are there any considerations as far as security and privacy? And of course, many of them had some red flags. Our law enforcement folks, our health and human services folks had some big concerns about storing information in a centralized system. So we did that survey, and we also assessed the FOIA knowledge out there and also IT skill set. Wanted to mention that in that survey, there was a lot of adversity to IT, particularly on the security and privacy side of things. Well, we don't want to put it all in one place because what if somebody can access this? Or what is this cloud thing? I don't want to put anything in the cloud. Isn't somebody going to be able to get it? It took us a lot of effort to be able to talk to those folks and help them understand that this is only going to help with compliance and it's only going to support you in providing additional security to that information that is so it is really important to store that in a way that folks won't be able to get access to it. So we had dinosaurs to IT programmers, and that is one of the reasons why the survey helped us evaluate that. And we knew we were going to have to tailor that message a little bit differently to each of those 45 agencies. And then also the support from agencies, when they said in the survey, hey, here's our current process, we track these in Excel. Well, wait a second. Does Excel have a countdown clock? Does Excel have any workflows? No, it didn't. So that was a really good way, that nugget of information that we got from those agencies on their current inefficient processes allowed us to inform them better through the development and implementation phases what the changes looked like and how it could help their process. And then last but not least, some folks in management, more money is being poured into FOIA. The volume is increasing. Again, the duplication of processes. How many staff do we need to support these efforts? And what about performance? How many are one person fulfilling in one day? Should they be doing 3? Should they be doing 10? What is that? What does the speed at which they are fulfilling those, and how can we improve that? So having that data was really important as well, to kind of measuring that change. And then our next step, the plan to develop and implement. So this is actually a picture of all of us at Silver Diner, and coincidentally at the top it says Next Generation Diner. We as a team came together and we knew that as a team we were going to have to celebrate our success. We were going to have to come together and not just talk about the IT stuff. Let's talk about IT and what those schedules and deliverables and all these other things here. But let's also talk about things like the communication strategy. How are we going to communicate with agencies? What does this tool do? And then they talk in that IT talk, and how can we digest that and be able to communicate that to agencies? What about the survey? What is the survey impact? Let's talk about that. So there was real collaboration at every step of the way. And every step of the way, just right here through the development and implementation phase, whether we are talking about business goals and objectives or communication strategies, we were connected. Now, I won't say that it was always perfect. There were sometimes disagreements. Sometimes we wanted a specific enhancement that our Felicia said, you know what, we need to stick to the wish list. We have a deadline, we have a budget. We're not going to be able to do the priority twos, she would say. And I think coincidentally, it was around the holidays. So we kind of joked that it was our Christmas wish list when we were doing that. So plan to develop and implement change and do it together every step of the way. And speaking of every step in the way and collaborating, and then I'm going to turn it over to Felicia, and I'm sorry, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Vinciarelli with Microsoft to talk with Felicia about more of the IT side of things. When we were developing our process, we did this in line with what the IT capabilities were. So we knew that as far as the FOIA compliance process, the FOIA response process goes, we knew there were certain compliance checkboxes that we had to check. For example, in Virginia, a FOIA response is required to be sent within 5 business days of receipt. How in this IT application would we be able to notify folks that one is coming up due? Maybe it's the next day, or maybe they have a way to see all of their FOIAs, or maybe it's a manager that wants to see the staff's FOIAs and what's ongoing or what's upcoming. We wanted to make sure that we're replying on time. So when we developed this process, that's an example of one of those compliance requirements that we kind of weaved into the process, knowing that the tracker would allow us to track the deadlines. And not only track the deadlines, but set up those notifications and reminders that there's one that's about to be due. Have a countdown clock. We literally in the tool have a countdown clock that shows you have 3 hours left to send this. You have 4 days left to send this. And that was a real good trigger for folks, especially the visual learners, to be able to see when is this FOIA due. So from intake, when a FOIA request is received, through fee assessment, is there going to be a cost involved? Variety of laws out there in different states, but in Virginia, we are able to assess fees, but it's within our discretion to also waive fees. So that's something that we wanted the tracker to consider. There's some information we put in there as far as how much the fee is, whether an agency decided to waive it, were the costs for labor or materials. So we wanted to make sure we captured that as well. Searching, reviewing, and redacting the records, having a field that we could describe where we searched for the records, what it was that we searched, and what we identified. And then also the response and delivery. When was the response sent? When was the payment received? Is that person still overdue? So at every step of the process, we went to Felicia and we said, we would love to track this information for these variety of reasons. What can IT do to help us solve that? And we walked through each of these steps. And this was, I would say, one of the longer parts of the process. This is when you had legal and compliance speaking legal and compliance language, and you had IT people speaking IT language. And so there was a little bit of like, what are they talking about? But with a lot of whiteboard markers and a lot of time on a whiteboard, we made it work, and we came up with this process. And then before I turn it over, I'll just show you a couple of quick slides that kind of outline what the tracker actually looks like, what the UI looks like. So we do have a dashboard where we can see what FOIAs look like for your agency. If you're at a senior management level, you can see what FOIAs look like for the entire county. You can also have a variety of views. They're customizable, which was one of the best things. You have a variety of folks out there. I know the IT savvy folks, they would always come to us and say, we'd really like to have a lot more dashboards and all these like tricks. And we're like, okay, I can accommodate that. Let's work with you on that. And then we'd have some of them, more less IT folks say, I just want one dashboard. I just want 2 graphs that show this and this. And it was able to accommodate that. When the FOIA request came in, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, we were able to create fields for the information that we wanted to report out on, and the information that we wanted to hold agencies accountable for when it came to their FOIA requests. So here are a couple examples of the fields. We captured contact information for the requester. We also contacted or captured whether they were a Virginia resident or a member of the media, or whether they were a non-resident. Again, every state's laws are different, but in Virginia, if it's an out-of-state requester, we're not legally required to provide them with records. We almost always do, but we wanted to capture that as well to help us measure transparency. Here's a couple other slides. The fees, we tracked those as well. How did we respond? And how did we deliver the response, which was really critical for compliance. If somebody said, we didn't get the response, well, let's go back to the tracker. How did we send that? Oh yeah, it was via email. So let's go back to that file and let's go in the tracker and see if we have a copy of that email. And that's part of the process, and we typically do. That's another place we store that information. And again, I already kind of covered the fee information. And then once the request is closed out, again, kind of getting into that workflow. So each of these kind of starting, this is towards the end of that workflow and that process. We needed to close the request. So this is how we closed the request. We had a variety of close options. Those have changed over time. We've kind of adapted based on the laws changing and based on the different transparency measurements that we wanted to get, which again is another great feature of this tracker, because it really is agile in that sense. You can change certain features, and thanks of course to our IT professionals and making all the other global changes that come with that. Thank you, Felicia. We made that happen. And then I think I already talked about dashboards. So this is just another example of that, really flexible, easy to view your FOIAs, your agency's FOIAs, certain staff FOIAs at a countywide level. You could do that too. Let's see, some additional features. We were able to track the FOIAs, which was really helpful. So if I'm over in the police department and I want to know if another agency received a FOIA request from this same person, I can go in the tracker and see if they have FOIAs with other agencies, and that was really helpful. So here we are now 5 years post-implementation, we utilize that FOIA data for the variety of reasons I've already talked about, for performance metrics. We have our annual reports. Check us out at the Fairfax County's website. You could just go to Google Fairfax County FOIA. You could also go to Fairfax County's website and type in FOIA, and you'll see our annual reports on the webpage. We improve the processes, which we continue to evaluate how much improvement. So as I said, we had 9,000 back in fiscal year 19. We have 16,000 now. And every year we've made improvements in that process that allow us to kind of take those additional complex FOIAs on and that additional volume on. And we've also, of course, continued to enhance and evaluate how the tracker is working for agencies by doing user surveys and also changing it to adapt to every year changes at the General Assembly on FOIA. So we've been able to do that too. So thanks for listening. Appreciate you all being here in attendance and hearing how, from at least the business user side, we were able to work with IT to implement this process. I'll turn it over to Michael Venturelli. Take it away, Michael.
Thanks, Amanda. Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Venturelli. I'm a Business Applications Customer Success Manager, and I currently cover Fairfax County. So really excited to have them talking with us today. In my role, I work with customers like Fairfax to help them drive business values and outcomes and help them support the adoption and usage of Dynamics and the Power Platform. Amanda, I love to see ProSci and the AdCar model and the emphasis on change management. It's a big part of what we do as customer success managers, and I know how important it is to the success of projects. So really love to see that. We're going to cover this next section with Felicia, kind of as a Q&A. So I'll tee up some questions, Felicia, and I'll let you take it from there. So first off, besides FOIA, can you tell us a little bit about some of the other solutions that you and the team have developed to support Fairfax?
Yes, FOIA was one of our biggest initial deployments. We call it an enterprise-wide solution, meaning that, as she said, departments from all throughout the county will be using FOIA. And so what we did, we had this thing called ATM. And for those who can remember what an ATM machine, which means that no matter where you go, if you want to take out money, no matter where you bank, you should be able to walk up, look at the screen, and figure it out. And so by FOIA being enterprise, when we went to work with DTA, Department of Tax Administration, or Neighborhood Community Service, or the board office, we also had to consider the fact that some of those users might have already been FOIA users. And for example, with DTA, we implemented a portal. DTA, they have two solutions. One is audit. You can request your taxes to be audited, or the county decides they're going to audit you on your taxes. The other one is what we call Target. And Target in the state of Virginia is very interesting because what happens is if I see a car that does not have Virginia license plate, doesn't matter how long you've been there, I can submit on the portal your license plate. That's all I have to do. Type in your license plate. And the Department of Tax will research, and they have this long list of people they check to verify or disclaim whether you are a Fairfax County resident and you owe us tax money. And then so once I put in the license plate based on the address, it gets assigned to a caseworker. And so they go through this extensive process, determining it based on the tags, what district you live in, how long you've been in the county, and they send you a bill. Now you can, object to the bill, but they have done all the research to determine that this car has been assigned to this person that lives in Fairfax County. So that was an interesting one for us also to learn about how the tax department works. Another one of my favorite was Neighborhood Community Service. And you can see a list here on the screen of many of the other solutions. Neighborhood Community Service was doing FOIA. We were told like on Wednesday that we had to have a solution implemented by Sunday night at midnight. And Neighborhood Community Service was about landlord, people who weren't able to pay their rent due to COVID reasons. And so as we did with Amanda and for FOIA, We never met the business user, didn't know anything about the process, but we had to have it up by midnight on Sunday. And so we had to understand, okay, so what do you need by midnight on Sunday? You don't need the whole thing because you're not going to pay them. You need to collect the information. So by midnight on Sunday, the key thing we've got to do is collect the information. And so once we got that understood between the business users and us, we all focus on collecting the information, which bought us a day or so or another week to process the request, another 30 days or something to pay it out. And you can change it. And then that's the other thing about Microsoft Power Platform. It's changeable. We don't have to have it 100% when we go live. We have to be able to configure it to support the business user and be able to adapt and overcome. So those are some of the things that, as with all these agencies you see here, we work in two types of areas. One is where Fairfax County Department of Information Technology actually is the owner and the implementer of the solution. Then we have the agencies like Public Safety, Library, Fire, and Health Department, where they create Power Platform or dynamic solutions for their business areas. And we help and oversee with what they need to do. But we have a very versatile, we've learned things like consumer affairs, where you can have a complaint about cable company or something of that nature, or even a business, and you has as a web page or purchasing users in the county, that's an enterprise. Anybody in the county, any employee in the county that's designated can put in information about a purchasing request. And naturally, the grievance track does, Health and Human Services, HR, Human Relationship, and Civil Service. So after a certain period, that was a very complicated solution to implement, because what happens, you only get to see the data at a certain period of time. And once it moves to the second stage, you can't see it, or certain other people have read access. Then it gets to civil service, and that comes in a whole new set of rules. So we've had a very versatile journey here at Fairfax County and IT in implementing various solutions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear how you found it flexible and able to let you build solutions quickly to meet your constituents' needs. One of the things Amanda touched on earlier was the importance of a shared goal and collaboration with agencies and IT. I think we've moved up to the slide to look at your implementation process. Can you just tell us a little bit about some of the key aspects of this that you found really helpful in managing and engaging with your stakeholders?
The key thing in management and engagement with the stakeholders, we found that most of the business users didn't know anything about CRM, Power Platform, Dynamics, and not any of that. But they knew we are a Microsoft shop, so they knew about Office, Excel, Access, and those kinds of things. And so implementing CRM, we had to take in consideration a learning curve. So if you already know about menus, right click, and control, it was easier to implement something by sharing the screens, gradually bringing you along. And we implemented what we call, Amanda talked about, we use DevOps. DevOps was our backbone for implementing a solution. So when we meet with business users, they tell us all their wants, their wishes, and everything. Anything they say, we would put in an item in DevOps so that the business users would know that we heard them. And then we would evaluate what they say. And then we would keep the comments updated. Then we would also prioritize. Is this a priority one? Is this in development? Is this in testing? Is this in research? So we use DevOps to keep track of whatever our process and our releases. In addition to that, we have a dev environment, and we called it training. And then we have a production. Depends on what the solution is. Sometimes we put in staging just to see the effect. The dev environment is where all the development goes on. We do, we meet with the business users. You tell us your wants and wishes. We create it there. We meet with you. We show you in the dev environment what you said. You vote yay, nay. And then if you vote yes, based on our time schedule, we package it up, put it in training. You go through training as a business user and test it. Nothing goes to production without your sign off. So you can say, yeah, it's right. But if we don't get a sign off, we don't move it into production. We package it up based on our schedules, agreement on the schedules, and put it in production. Again, once we move into production, we have a little checklist. On Friday, we will be doing this. You will have from midnight to 5 a.m. in the morning to yay or nay. If you come up with a problem, we will decide whether it can be fixed. We will either roll you back or we will leave you there. But you have to approve it before business starts by 6 o'clock on Monday morning. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And having the business user know that works. Knowing what we're doing, where we're going, what to expect, we found it to be very useful.
Awesome. And then related to that, and Amanda touched on this earlier with her Christmas list. Can you talk a little bit about how you manage change control as part of that process? Because I think that's really important.
Change control, before we actually go live the first time in a production, we do the things where we go priority 1, priority 2. And as I said, we go into dev and we move it through when they sign off. Once a solution goes live, we continue working on that list of requirements. Whatever we have as priority 2. Once it goes live, the priority 1s, if they moved, then they're closed out. So you will actually, as a business user, you get a report. You see a report of everything you've asked for, how it's ranked, what's your feedback. Sometimes say, oh, never mind, we don't want that. And then 6 months later, oh, we want that. Well, on December 1st, you said, and the best part we found out is having this interaction with the business user. At first, it's like, well, it's just too much, but they begin to understand. They'll say, well, what about, I said, what's the task number? Oh, 2546. 2546 said you asked for a dashboard. And so that's how it worked. And it seems to be very productive because they always know where we're going, where we've been, and when to expect the changes. The other part I found is when you're working with the business user, giving them something to do. Change management. When we have our meetings every 2 weeks before we go live, once a quarter after you go productions, like you said, for the change for the release levels, is having this document that everybody knows this is what's coming next. Also having, I call it homework. When you walk out of a meeting, you have something to do, we have something to do, and it keeps everybody engaged. We try to make it fun. We try to keep it exciting, engagement, and to give an opportunity to learn something new.
Yeah, I mean, that collaboration I think is huge. Transparency, everybody singing from the same hymnal, keeps everybody aligned and keeps everybody happy, right? There's no surprises, which I think is great. One of the other things I know that we wanted to talk about was your team. Can you tell us, with all this great stuff going on at the county, your team and what you did to help kind of prepare them for these changes and get them ready to help kind of extend and do more with the platform?
Amanda showed a slide initially of the team, and when we were implementing FOIA, we were quite small. The people, I think there was 3 people on her side and 3 people on the county, actual employees. One of the things we always liked, we always do is if we're implementing something new, first time, very like a portal or integration with Power BI or whatever, or something brand new, we always engage with a partner and Microsoft. To first find out what Microsoft has to say, give everybody, do the research and engage with a partner because it's our first time. We didn't put up a portal. We don't know what it can do, the difference between the license model, customer portal, employee portal, all kinds of things that go on out there. And so we engage with a partner. The other thing that we like to do is we have user groups that keep the team, the developers involved. We participate in, like the user group that you have here. We also allow team members to go to Microsoft Ignite, which gives them an opportunity to meet other people. So you're not in this world alone. You actually work for the government, and we provide service to the public, which is quite demanding, but we're not in this alone. You get an opportunity to meet other people. My first real experience with New York City 311, which is major release using Microsoft Power Platform and Dynamics. I saw them at Ignite and got to meet with them, talk to them later. The other thing that we do is we did the Microsoft 60-Day Cloud Skills Challenge. And we instituted it as, okay, you have 60 days, this is fun. And we would meet every week and talk about what they did, what they learned, encourage each other. We even have little awards, I would, if they were here during that time, we would, have a Starbucks coffee break or a cake break, and we would just sit in the conference room and chat or get a virtual Starbucks ticket. We also had Microsoft come in and do a Power Platform Dynamics presentation to the county, anybody who wanted to come, so they could get an introduction of what it could do in their business needs. So keeping everybody engaged. Also, when a new opportunity arises, allow people to work on other things. You worked on FOIA, but when we had to do this thing for neighborhood community service, which we had to work totally 24 hours around the clock to make our deadline, which we did. We made it at 9 o'clock. Which 9 p.m., which was before midnight, and everybody was really excited. But there's tension that goes on, but you keep people motivated. We have little slogans, Burger King, have it your way, or, I can do anything. I'm a developer. I created, I can take it out. The little things to keep people motivated, excited, and happy. Give them an opportunity. We implemented guided help. We did some Power Virtual Agents. We did Teams. We have done Power integration with Power BI. So give the team an opportunity to learn something new and to work on new projects, to meet new people, to learn more things about the county. JDRDC. Okay, yes.
Yeah, no, that's oh no, it's great stuff, and I know you're really passionate about it, and it's important for you to make sure that the team is engaged, motivated, and growing. There was one question in the chat. I just wanted to make sure we snuck in there. With a small team, you worked with partners when you needed to, especially for some of those initial projects. How did that work in terms of incorporating them into the process that you laid out earlier?
Our partners at that we worked with before COVID, staff were on site. We had at least two people initially on site. After COVID, everybody is remote. It was a change and a little challenge being remote, because when the people were on site, as for our business user, Amanda and the other users, they didn't know. And I never really wanted our business users to hear us say contractor or partner. It was Mary. And Mary was just part of the team. Mary was the person that did whatever they did. Mary answered the phone. Mary worked with the user group. Mary worked with the developers. It was just Mary. And I found that worked out better with our business user. We knew who they were, but right. To tell them that we done hired somebody else, because now they're saying, well, what happens when that leaves, and all this other questions. So, okay, you have to, cue me up.
Yeah, no, that us concept with vendors is hugely important. It's not us versus them. It's one team.
It's one team. Yeah, and we're in this together. That's the other thing we let our business users know. You succeed, we succeed. You fail, we fail. We're in this together.
Awesome. Well, Felice, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to work with you, and appreciate you taking the time today. And I think do I hand it back over to Amanda or Matt?
I'll take it.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we're in the Q&A session. So does anyone have any questions? If you can put them in the chat. I can't remember if you can come off mute or not. I'm assuming no. So stick them in the chat. We'd love to hear any feedback, thoughts.
I can just add, Matthew, in the interim, Felice is very humble. So she's been doing what she's doing for over 30 years. And when she says you really have to develop a team, she has done that with a lot of success. We would go into extended team meetings and she'd bring a cake and bring us together with food, or bring us together with talking about a current event, or bring us together somehow so that we could come to the table and it not be conflicting as soon as we started talking about, well, what can IT give us today? Nope, that's not a priority one. You're not getting it. So she kind of sweetened it up. And I'll also say her team and information technology in the county is so proactive, and that really increased the trust from a business user standpoint. So if it's daylight savings, for example, and we have a FOIA deadline countdown clock, they're already ahead of it 3 months trying to configure that time change in the tracker. And so that level of trust to know that they're devoted to making that product work for us and work for those compliance deadlines specific to FOIA really helped build that partnership.
Yeah, I love the iterations and small releases and just building the functionality over time. I think that's the ideal way to get the fastest value out of your investment at the end of the day, right? So, but I do have a question in the chat. It's is VFOIA primarily custom tables or a customization of CRM?
It's configuration. As Amanda just started telling there, we use the term configuration. Solutions are primary configuration, meaning that, for example, what you saw with Amanda, she has a field date due. So we may use the date due field. With Dynamics, there's trillions of fields out there. It's easier to start off and find what you're looking for. And then there are some, yes, we do have to create custom fields, like the whole chart, the way they charge for printing, 8.5 by 11, double-sided color, 11 by 17. So those are some custom fields. We configure the Dynamics CRM solution to support in that chart that Matt had earlier, those business users, even for the neighborhood and consumer services, even for tax and audit. One of the other key things is the business users use FOIA, also use tax, also use neighborhood community, and the list goes on. So if I do a lot of customizations, unique, then they'll be confused about how do I do it over here versus how do I do it when I get my own agency, landlord, cable and consumer solution. Because many times we found them say, oh, we use the FOIA. We know about that already.
So did you use the case entity, the customer service case entity, or did you build a custom entity?
We use the case entity.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
There was some specific functionality at the time that I think you leveraged for FOIA. I think it would be requirements dependent at the end of the day, whether you were to kind of build it more on the custom entity side of it, or if you leverage the Dynamics functionality. So it would really come down to requirements. So
the other thing we like, I'll be real quick and do the other thing I like to do is during these meetings, we like to we use the words so that people go out and Google. So if I said case, you could go to case and you can look up case on Microsoft's Power Platform Dynamics website, and you can understand, or go to the YouTube channel. And so when we use things like that, it's easy for the business user to adopt because we're using terms that anybody can look up.
there's certainly some advantages to using the same UI across the county for, rolling out new solutions. At least people are familiar with it. So I think that's good. Anyone else have any questions you want to put in the chat? Got a couple of minutes here. So while I'm waiting, so just real quick, we've recorded this session. It's going to go up in the DUG4GOV YouTube channel. We can post where that is shortly after this, unless someone has it handy. I do appreciate the time that you all spent with us, Fairfax County. Thank you very much for this presentation. I thought it was fantastic. I might be a little biased. We've worked together for a while, so but do appreciate all the time and effort you put into it. But I will say that please, as a community, we are here to help. So if you have some ideas, but you don't want to spend the time to pull this presentation together, we have some supporting people here that can help you kind of pull some things together and some thoughts. And like you saw today, like Amanda kind of did, her presentation was more of a slide deck, and then we kind of did a Q&A. So there's a lot of different ways we can do this, but I think the most important thing is that we're giving back to everybody here. And we're sharing the best practices that are critical to the success of adoption of the platform. So I appreciate everyone's time, and I think that's it. Thanks all.
So much for having us,
Thank
Matt.
you.
All right, take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.